Hi all, for our notable game today, let's look at another amazing game from the Brussels tournament of 1987. It was a fantastically strong tournament where Mikhail Tal, in fact, played. He was meant to be just a journalist there, but one of the contestants fell ill and Tal replaced him for the whole tournament. It was Robert Hubner during the first round game. So Tal stepped in and played for the entire tournament, and one of the classic encounters we got from that was Garry Kasparov playing Tal in round 11. So this tournament was organised by SWIFT. SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. So it was between April the 10th to April 24th, 1987, category 14. Let's look at the game. D4 from Garry Kasparov, and Mikhail Tal played knight f6, and we saw a Nimzo-Indian emerge, c4 e6. Kasparov played knight c3, so not sidestepping with knight f3. Nimzo-Indian, bishop b4, and Kasparov now chooses the Rubinstein variation e3, very popular. Kasparov is also known to play queen c2. Black castled here, bishop d3, delaying this knight for the moment. The knight might come here under certain circumstances, as well as here. d5, black is playing for the classic light square strategy, often prepared to give up his dark square bishop to support a light square campaign. c takes d5, e takes d5. And in fact here the knight flexibility is tested. It doesn't go routinely to f3, it goes instead to e2, supporting this knight. It also keeps the f-pawn clear, so it might not just be about just supporting knight for a structural concern. We have c5, white castles, knight c6, and now in this position a3, Mikhail Tal plays c takes d4. Kasparov recaptures, keeping control of key squares c5 and e5, and the usual move here, the book move, according to Livebook, most common 31 games in Livebook, is bishop d6. An example is, for example, like this, has seen quite a few games play out like this, and it's meant to be about equal. In this game we have bishop takes c3, and perhaps Kasparov might have been tempted for a moment with this. If knight takes, bishop takes, getting the knight there. But actually, he played instead b takes c3, strengthening his centre. So what is the knight doing on e2? Well, it has unblocked the f-pawn. White centre is quite solid here, it seems. Knight e7. Preparing bishop f5. To get rid of this light square bishop would weaken these key squares. This is a backward pawn to be tortured on the c-file. So this square in particular, if later that could be controlled, black would be in the driving seat positionally. White stops bishop f5, queen c2, keeping control of the f5 square. Bishop d7, preparing rook c8. Bishop g5, immediately threatening bishop takes f6 and bishop takes h7. Black parries that with knight g6. Now a very interesting move indeed in this position. Kasparov plays f4. Slightly unusual in Nimzo-Indian positions to be playing like this. So temporarily this pawn, backward pawn, but it requires a lot of moves to try and exploit it. In the meantime, white is whipping up a kingside attack. The immediate idea, f5, if the knight goes back, then bishop takes f6, doubling the pawns. So black reacts with h6. The bishop can't step back. Kasparov with f4 is committed, giving up his dark square bishop basically. He does. Bishop takes f6. Queen takes f6. f5. Gaining a tempo on the knight and gaining space. Knight e7. And now knight g3 gives the possibility of knight h5 under the right circumstances. It seems black is cramped here and is a long way from exploiting any positional pawn structure defects. He has to tend to his king. Knight c8 is played here, getting out of the way of things like knight h5 and f6 with tempo on that e7 knight. But now here, rook f4. This supports the idea of h4 in some future variations now. If ever knight h5, queen coming to g5, the rook can be supported, then later h4 to evict the queen. So it usefully controls h4. We have knight d6 looking at these key squares. Queen f2. Now, with the rook supported, knight h5, and if queen g5, h4 is a nice idea. Rook fe8, logically coming to control that centre file. But now knight h5. And here we see a subtle point about this h4. If the queen did go to g5, it looks as though the knight needs to be protected. Can you see in this variation what white could play here? If I give you 5 seconds, this is a variation of the game that didn't occur. The queen went back. But in this position, what can white play? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay, h4 is possible. If takes, then g4 traps the queen. The queen is also protecting h4 here. The rook is just holding g4. The queen is trapped here. So the queen goes all the way back. It looks terrible. And it looks very tempting to play a move like f6. But Kasparov played maybe an even stronger move in this position. Can you guess what he did? If I give you 5 seconds here, white to play. Okay, he shatters the king position. Knight takes g7, hitting the rook. Now if black reacts with king takes, then f6 check, king h8, queen h4 is crushing. There's no defense of h6, or only temporary. If, for example, here we can just snap this off, and we'll be mating soon after on g7, bishop h7, queen g7. So Tal is in dire straits here. He plays knight e4. Kasparov takes that knight off, and now just protects that knight with f6. And the threat here is queen g3 as well as knight e8, just trying to mate on g7. The king tries to step out of the way. Rook takes e4, d takes, queen f4, with queen takes e4 on the cards now. Also looking at h6, black protects e4. Rook e1, which threatens a maneuver rook e3 to h3, a classic rook lift in this position. Queen f8, c4, not only threatening d5, but saying I don't care about the a3 pawn. Black is not doing much in this position, no. He does actually take on a3. Knight f5. Just going for h6, not bothering even with d5 in this position. Just going for queen takes h6. The queen goes all the way back to the fend. And now rook e3, again not bothering with d5. There might be an annoying check or something, but white doesn't need to do d5. Rook h3 is a really strong attack. Bishop d7. And in this position, can you see what white plays here? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now, what would you play? Okay, not rook h3, although that might be strong. Rook g3, it's a strong position for white in any case, but rook g3 seems very incisive to go to g7, potentially. So bishop takes f5, queen takes f5 check, and here Mikhail Tal resigned. In the light of an upcoming rook g7, he resigned here. If king h8, rook g7, he would have to give up the queen, and it's hopeless after that. A very interesting encounter between the two world champions at the Brussels tournament, 1987. It shows that taking on c3, sometimes white has the option just to strengthen the centre and maybe blast down an attack using the f-pawn. So that's another perk of knight ge2 was emphasised as a result of this example game. That knight eg2, this f-pawn could be dangerous under certain circumstances. White being prepared to give up the dark square bishop to accelerate an attack against the black king. A clash of legends here. Okay, I hope you got something from it. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.